Hey everyone, Mr. Macintosh here, and Apple has just released the first major update to macOS Sequoia 15.1. And you might be asking yourself, is it okay to install on your unsupported Mac with OpenCore Legacy Patcher in the latest release 2.0.2? Well, to find out, we've now got 14 separate models to be able to test as many different scenarios to make sure your install goes without a hitch. This update's a little bit different. We've got a couple of small issues that have arisen here, and we're going to definitely go over those. You're going to want to stick around for this one. Let's jump in and get started. First, let's talk about what is in the macOS Sequoia 15.1 update. As I mentioned in the intro, a major update that includes a bunch of changes in this release. The update is focused primarily on Apple Intelligence, which is not compatible with Intel devices or any OpenCore Legacy Patcher Macs. A lot of people have been asking, is it possible to make Apple Intelligence work on your unsupported Mac? And the answer is no, due to how Apple has basically selected the individual piece of hardware Apple Intelligence invitation. So once you selected that you want to turn on Apple Intelligence, that is set to your device. And so far, unfortunately, that is not going to work for unsupported Macs or any Intel Macs at this time. But there is additional other features that are in here that may interest you but might not be fully supported. But there is major security fixes in this release for 15.1, and there's over 48 separate individual CVEs that are addressed, including 2 WebKits. So that's why it is important to install, because even though there's certain parts of OpenCore Legacy Patcher that have to be changed to make it work, these fixes are still applied to the operating system to keep you secure. So that kind of covers what 15.1 is about. Now let's talk about the patcher itself. The latest release for 15.1 is 2.0.2 that was released on September 27th. Not every individual update release comes with an associated OpenCore Legacy Patcher update. Now, if you look at this, it does include support for 15.1, and that was actually fixed in the earlier beta releases of 15.1. So this is good, and so far there hasn't been any major issues that have been found with the releases. As I mentioned in the intro, there is a couple small issues that we're going to go over that you might be interested in that I came across, and we want to be able to cover that so you are fully prepared. Now, even the OpenCore Legacy Patcher developers do mention that the support for macOS Sequoia is ongoing. There's so many changes that are happening inside the operating system. It is still an ongoing process. Now, if you're looking for a dedicated system that you want fully reliable, I fully recommend macOS Ventura or macOS Sonoma right now, because now those are in security update modes and only security fixes are going to be made. No major changes are going to be made to the operating system, so they're a lot more reliable. So now that we know that, let's jump in and show you how to update to the latest version, because there's still questions for new users. How do I update to 15.1 with OpenCore Legacy Patcher? Should I create a USB installer? Should I boot into that and do that? Or should I update through the software update? Should I uninstall the root patches to get a smaller update? Let's cover that now. Now, this is the live demo part to show you and give you a walkthrough on how to update to the latest version of 15.1 if you're on a previous version of macOS Sequoia, let's say 15.0, the first release, or 15.0.1, which is this demonstration Mac, which is a Mac Pro late 2013. Now, first of all, there's no immediate rush to jump to the latest version. Yes, I always talk about security and making sure your Mac is secure, but I would like you to keep in mind the stability of the update before making that jump. Feel free to look on Reddit, the OpenCore Legacy Patcher subreddit, the OpenCore Legacy Patcher Discord. You can see other people who have made the jump already to see if they have any issues, or you can just wait for me to show all the testing that I do before you decide you want to make the jump. If you want to do that before anybody else does, that's totally fine with you, but that's why I'm doing this testing, to try to save you time to catch any issues before it happens possibly to you. If you do want to update though, there's a couple things that you want to keep in mind. I mentioned that there's a couple different ways that we can update. If you want to create a USB installer here of 15.1 and update that way, that's fine. But the easiest way to update to a newer point release update is through System Settings, Software Update. So go into General and then click on Software Update, and then you will check for updates. Now, another very important thing that you need to do, if you haven't seen me talk about this yet, is to go into automatic updates and then turn off download new updates when available. Because this is not, and we'll type in our administrator password, this is not what it seems. It's not like the old days where it just downloads the update. What this will do is it should say download and prepare the update, because what happens then, the update stage in your system, and now it's kind of stuck in that limbo of now your system's actually half modified with the new update. So when you have that off, you have full control on when you want to be able to install those updates. When that happens, then it'll still tell you when an update's available, but it's not going to download and it's not going to prepare the update. Now the update is showing as macOS Sequoia 15.1. You can click update now and it'll immediately start to update, or you can click on the more info button to see what the update's about, and you can see the size of the update, 14.53 gigabytes. And remember, that is normal. OpenCore Legacy Patcher requires the full update to be able to install it. Now, I mentioned earlier about doing the old trick to be able to unpatch the root patches and then coming back up and you could see the old Delta update, which is anywhere between 1.5 and 3 or 4 gigabytes in size. That no longer works, and it's no longer supported by the OpenCore Legacy Patcher developers. If you try doing that, you'll get a personalization or some sort of error at the end of the process, and it just does not work anymore. So I don't recommend doing that anymore. Just install this full update. That is what the developers recommend as the path forward. All we need to do is click update now and then agree. It's going to start to download. I always like to check activity monitor and check the network speed on download, especially when I have a caching server available, and you'll see that we'll get faster speeds here. Now, what you'll also see is if your Mac requires the Kernel Debug Kit or the Metallib package, you'll see OpenCore Legacy Patcher pop up, and it'll say like, hey, we have to download the KDK, or we need to be able to download the Metallib package. And there's the notification that we need to download the latest Kernel Debug Kit. So we will click on OK, and then a new dialog will show up showing that we need to download the KDK or the Metallib package while it's downloading the full update. And we can see that we're pulling in about anywhere between 30 and 50 megabytes a second from our caching server. You can see that the other Mac Pro that I've got here is running caching server, so it's sending the same over that network to be able to get that faster than just downloading it directly from Apple. We're going to let these download and we'll be right back. Okay, we're just about done with downloading the 14 gigabytes of macOS Sequoia 15.1 update, and then the KDK will go a little bit faster here on the download speed. If you don't see this and you know your Mac requires this, or a couple of you have asked about what does the Metallib build message look like, and this is what it looks like on our late 2012 Mac Mini. It looks the same way like the Kernel Debug Kit looks like. It has to download this directly from the servers, from OpenCore Legacy Patcher servers. And then if you don't see this and you know you need it, that's a problem, right? Because you might end up having a problem. Again, the patcher is very good with recognizing that an update is happening, and then it will check immediately and start to download this. But if that doesn't happen, and it does, I would stop the update and try it again and see if there's maybe an issue there. Because if this doesn't get that, that could cause problems later. So as long as you see your Kernel Debug Kit downloading, and along with your update, you are in good shape. Now, if your Mac does not need the Kernel Debug Kit, don't worry about that. And I'll put a list of all the Macs that don't need that in the description of this video. Now, let me show you, while this is almost done here, the two websites that you can go to see if the Metallib and the Kernel Debug Kit are available. Here is the Metallib support package GitHub. You can see the releases here, and I'll put a link to this in the description of the video, so you can see if you have a version available in the releases of the latest build. So for example, our 15.1 24B83 is exactly what we need. As long as you see this here, you're good to go. And again, you don't normally have to check here every time. This is only if you're having problems, and that's why I want to show you all these other things in case you have a problem. You're like, well, what do I do? What do I check? What website or what kind of troubleshooting should I start? Now for the Kernel Debug Kit, this is the GitHub for that too, and you can scroll down and you can see there it is, 24B83, and as long as you see the latest build in there, you know you're good to go for the download. If for some reason Apple doesn't release the Kernel Debug Kit, it can still fall back to 15.01, for example, but there might be some really important changes in the kernel debug kit that you might need that could cause problems later. Earlier we showed it downloading the KDK, downloading the update, preparing the update. Now it installed the 15.1 update. We are now on 15.1, and I wanted to talk a couple things on the screen here. With macOS Sequoia, you'll see a black or a white screen, and that is your immediate tip-off that you are not running it with the accelerated root patches. You don't see any Wi-Fi, that's when you know you're having problems. After you come up from the 15.1 update, you should see that OpenCore Legacy Patcher should automatically pop up and tell you that, hey, you need to install the root patches to be able to get the acceleration, Wi-Fi, and all these other things. So for this Mac Pro, we need AMD Legacy GCN and modern wireless to be able to fully be patched. And that's why we can see that we do not have any Wi-Fi right now. And we don't really need that right now because we already pulled the KDK. The KDK is sitting in the developer folder of the library developer KDKs, so we already got that cache right here, 15.1, we're ready to go. So once we go to patch, it's going to have everything it needs. So all we need to do is click OK. Checking it already found that it has the kernel debug already installed here, 15.1, right in this folder, so we're good to go. And now it's going to merge that with the root volume. So right now, it's installing the root patches on the system. When that's done, we're going to be able to reboot and have a fully patched system. If for some reason you come back up after this 15.1 update and you're not seeing this screen, that's okay, don't worry. Fire up the OpenCore Legacy Patcher app and then click Install Root Patches here in that window. And that's if for some reason the launch daemon does not work, to be able to automatically pop up OpenCore Legacy Patcher for you to be able to patch. And that's the patching system. And after that, you should be good to go. Now, the only thing I wanted to mention is that the system will be slow because there's a lot of things that are happening once an update's installed. And there we go, we can reboot now and restart. We've got Spotlight indexing. We've got different file system processes that need to finish. So there's always going to be a little bit of time after a macOS update that the system's going to be a little bit slow. So let the system finish those things, let the root patches install, let it sit for a little bit. You might hear the fans, they might be running a little hot. That's okay. Let those things run. And after those are finished, within anywhere between 15 minutes and a half hour, that system should be good to go and ready to roll. Alright, we're back on the desktop, and immediately we already see that we've got our Wi-Fi working, we've got our Bluetooth working, we've got our transparent menu bar, and we've got our transparent dock. We are looking good to go. I always like to open up the patcher itself, and then you can check to make sure by clicking Post Install Root Patches that all the patches were applied, and they were. All applicable patches were already installed, and we can see the date today, October 31st, Halloween, 202 OpenCore Legacy Patcher version. So we can go back to the main menu, and we are looking really good here. Before we get into the demo, the next section, I wanted to go over some of the issues that I've experienced and some of the things that you may have seen with Sequoia so far. Okay, in this section, I wanted to talk about some of the issues that I've seen with macOS Sequoia and OpenCore Legacy Patcher. And again, I need to stress that this is still a work in progress with the developers, and the fact that they've already got this far is absolutely amazing. So when I talk about these issues, they're just small things that are currently could be a small issue for you, or it might not be an issue for you at all because you don't even use that feature. But I want to cover it, so if you see an issue like this and you don't want to have that issue, you might want to hold on an OS or an earlier version of macOS. So the first issue that I found is that screen sharing for non-metal Macs is not working properly. So I'll show you what that looks like. So here's our 2011 17-inch MacBook Pro non-metal. You can see that the cursor works, and you can actually see the mouse cursor working around there, but we've got a black screen just not working. Again, if you don't use screen sharing, no big deal, but if you do, that's something you want to keep an eye on because it does work in macOS Sonoma and lower. So this is a Sequoia issue. Another non-metal issue is that sometimes the Wi-Fi icon will not show connected even though it is. So the example is that when you go up here and click, you'll see it's connected here, but it'll it'll be blank here or grayed out. But the trick to be able to fix that is just click on it once to get it to display, and then it will show as connected. So if you do see that, it does work as soon as you click here, and then it'll show it, and that will last your entire session. It's only when you reboot and come back up that that little bug happens. The next issue is still with Wi-Fi. What I've noticed with a non-metal or the legacy Wi-Fi patches, sometimes it doesn't immediately connect, and sometimes it struggles to continually connect to Wi-Fi, and so many different Wi-Fi cards that you have that the developers have to deal with. But I have noticed with non-metal some slight slowness in connecting to Wi-Fi in macOS Sequoia 15.1. The next issue is that if you create and change your USB installer on another Mac, so let's say you have an M1 Mac and you created the installer on there and you change the version or the different Mac model, the automatic root patches are not being applied at that time. So when you get to the setup assistant after a new install, it's not accelerated, and you are having a slow setup assistant screen after a brand new install. So if you get to this screen here and you try to get to the United States or whatever country, this whole thing could crash and then restart all over again. The trick is to type in United space, and it'll go to United States, and then you can immediately click continue. So if this is crashing for you in the setup assistant for the language selection, that's a little tip to be able to go get around that. Now, if you create the USB installer for macOS Sequoia on the device on there, or create it specifically for that model, the auto package piece with all the drivers for your machine should be on there. It's only when you switch it to another model, like you're installing on a second Mac, is when you don't get that and you get an unaccelerated situation here. Next up is an error occurred preparing the software update. A lot of people have mentioned this in the Discord and on the OpenCore Legacy Patcher sub on Reddit. If you're getting this sometimes happens, and especially with the older models. I've not really seen this with anything metal compatible or above. It's usually the 2011, 10, 9, and 8 models. When this happens, and this is normally with a upgrade install or sometimes even a fresh install of macOS Sequoia. And when that happens, it's not the end of the world. You can click OK, or just go up to the Apple logo and click restart. Sometimes that's just enough to be able to get past this error and you're okay. The only problem is that you'll get your name of your hard drive will be called Sequoia-data. And every restart after that will call data every time you have to restart and it doesn't work. The other tip is that sometimes I've recognized that some USB installers or some USB serial ATA adapters don't work properly. So see if you can switch that and see if that fixes the issue. I've heard other people saying reset the SMC and the PRAM, clear up this issue. So if you're getting that issue, let me know in the comments if you've come across this issue. And also let me know in the comments if you have come across any Sequoia issues, or you want me to be able to cover one of the issues that you've had, or any applications that don't work. I've also heard Apple TV was having some issues crashing while trying to load. I've tried to test that and I haven't been able to have that happen, but maybe I have to reproduce it in a very certain way. Do you want me to test other apps like the Photos app, for example? Some people were saying there were some issues in Photos. So let me know in the comments, what are some of the things that you want me to be able to test when we're going through this entire testing scenario? I hope I tried to cover at least a small amount, and some of these are really small issues and they're really off the charts as far as mainstream, but I wanted to at least cover some of these in case you run across them. Okay, so unfortunately we are running a little late on time. I checked the runtime, we're already at 27 minutes, but I wanted to be able to still cover some of these, so I wanted to do a quick overview of these individual models instead of connecting them and showing and going through all that. If you like me doing that, make sure you call it out, because maybe what we do is we'll change the videos where they're not as heavy front loaded and they're concentrated more on individual machines. Let me know in the comments what kind of format you like to see when we're doing these videos. Again, I want to try to pack as much information in here but not have a full hour-length TV show type of an update video here. So first let's talk about our iMac 27-inch 2011. No problems other than, like I mentioned in the problems section, the slower connecting legacy wireless and screen sharing not working. Other than that, we've got no problems with our iMac 27-inch. On our 5K 27-inch iMac, no issues whatsoever. This thing is screaming, no problems. It is running very well. Now on our Mac Mini Elite 2012, that's our earliest metal supported Mac, and it is running fine, no issues whatsoever. And that does not have the Kernel Debug Kit. It has just the Intel GPU, so that's running fine. It only needs the Metallib package. Our Mac Pro is running great. We just showed that as a demo system. Our Mac Pro mid 2010, and the best part is since we're running a metal compatible GPU updated video card in here, we've got full connection with our screen sharing app. Again, that's why having a metal compatible card really helps that system run, because there's not as many different fixes for the patches that have to be done. The only thing I can find is that I'm having problems with Bluetooth. Now remember, I have an updated video. I have an updated Wi-Fi Bluetooth card that allows me to use modern wireless patches. There might be something wrong with that card. I think I need to check the connections with the USB side, so do not take that as it's not working on the 2010, but I wanted to mention that. Our MacBook 13-inch mid 2010, no issues whatsoever, other than the fact that this guy, I gotta be honest, it's running a little bit slow, right? I mean, it is pushing it with a Core 2 Duo here, but it still runs. But when you're checking activity monitor in the CPU section, it's definitely struggling and using a lot of system resources to keep that system running, even with some of the stuff disabled. So once we get down to 2010 and some of the Core 2 Duos, it's pushing it, right? 2008, 9, and 10. Next up is our early 2016 12-inch, no issues whatsoever, running really well. We've got our MacBook Air early 2014, no issues whatsoever. 15.1 is working just fine on that. Our MacBook Pro 15-inch 2017 with our touch bar and our Touch ID is working a-okay, no problems whatsoever. And our mid 2014 Retina is also working fine, and that is our Kepler based GPU, and it is running a-okay with no issues whatsoever. And that about rounds up our fleet of Macs. I hope this video helped with multiple things. I hope it helped with explaining what's going on in Sequoia 15.1, OpenCore Legacy Patcher 2.02, some of the walkthrough demo, some of the issues that are currently in 15.1 for macOS Sequoia for unsupported Macs, and going over some of these machines individually. Now comes to the recommendation. Do I recommend installing 15.1 on your unsupported Mac with OpenCore Legacy Patcher? That's a tough call because we went over some issues, but overall the 15.1 update is running okay. Some of these issues are based in Sequoia only, not 15.1 itself. The Apple Intelligence feature is not even on the board for our unsupported Macs, so we didn't have to worry about that. But we do think about the security updates that do keep our unsupported Mac secure. Remember, we talked about that trade-off between having to disable certain security features because OpenCore Legacy Patcher needs those to be fixed, but there's still literally hundreds of security patches compared to be trying to run on macOS High Sierra, for example. If you keep security in mind, you gotta weigh that out. This one's a tough one because again, it's just all Apple Intelligence. I do pretty much recommend it if you're running a metal compatible Mac right now. In those systems, like I said, we didn't have any issues. It's those non-metal systems that are having a couple issues right now with Sequoia, but overall it's still running and the system does work. For example, the 2011 MacBook Pro, it's running, it's not slow, it's not lagging, it's running very well. So that's my recommendation for 15.1. Again, let me know in the comments. I polled you guys a bunch of times in this video. I want to make sure that when we come together to do this talk on the patcher updates and the latest version of macOS Sequoia, that I'm covering everything that you want to be able to see. I read all the comments and I wish I could respond to all of them, but there's just so many. But I do see them and I see the certain things you're requesting, there's certain things you're having struggles with. That's why I try to cover those in these videos, because this is real world stuff that you guys are running into. Again, I want to thank the OpenCore Legacy Patcher developers for all the hard work that they put into the patcher. And I always like to mention the OpenCore Legacy Patcher Open Collective. If you have the means and you would like to support the developers and then being able to support 84 different hardware models, they do have a couple of ways where you could be able to do that. And I'll put a link in the description for that. Thanks for watching, and then we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.